Hello all and welcome to Chalk Talk, your source for Ohio State varsity athletics news, updates, and analysis. I'm your host, Kaylee Renz, coming to you from the Lantern TV studios in Columbus, Ohio. I'm joined by senior Lantern reporter Andrew Todd Smith and Lantern TV's assistant sports director Aaron Yerian. Guys, how's it going?
Amazing.
Outstanding.
Well, the Ohio State Buckeyes took on the Michigan State Spartans this weekend, beating them 49-37. So, Aaron, how did JT Barrett do?
JT Barrett had a phenomenal game in East Lansing. He earns another set of weekly honors. This time it's the Maxwell Award National Player of the Week, Athlon's National Player and Freshman of the Week, as well as the Big Ten's Offensive Player and Freshman of the Week. 0 interceptions, 300 yards passing, 86 yards rushing, 5 total touchdowns. But the Buckeyes suffered a significant injury in Dontre Wilson. Andrew.
They did, yes. True sophomore H-back Dontre Wilson is out for the foreseeable future. Coach Urban Meyer said Wednesday they could reasonably expect him back for the Buckeyes bowl game, but he sustained a broken foot in the game in East Lansing on Saturday. He played well into the fourth quarter, scored a touchdown on his second catch of the day. He had 116 yards on kick returns, 5 of them, so an instrumental contributor both on offense and in special teams. He's the all-purpose yardage leader on that team with 1,064 yards. So what do we expect to see now that he's gone for the next several games, Aaron?
Well, we have Jalen Marshall, experience at the H-back position and the Wildcat. He moves in, fills that role, plus Noah Brown, who's the third stringer. True freshman H-back, he's available. Curtis Samuel, probably going to see some more touches in the waning portions of the season. But, Marshall had a couple issues, not just at East Lansing, but also at Happy Valley.
He did indeed, yeah. He fumbled the one at Penn State that allowed the Nittany Lions to get back into things when the Buckeyes were leading 17-7. It wasn't his fumble in the Michigan State game, but he took responsibility when we talked to him on Wednesday for needing to be the guy that waved players off when he was fielding the punt.
You know, being back there, being smart, you never want to make a play to cost the team a turnover like last week. You know, it was a big mistake on my behalf, and so that's just me trying to make a mistake. Make a big play, but I have to learn. You know, being a young returner, just win to try to make the big play and win to make the safe play by calling a fair catch.
What should you have done on that play?
I should have just called the poison call and made everybody get out the way, but I tried to step up in there and return the punt, and it caused a turnover, and that's on me. It's fun for me just to be up different positions around the field. You know, I get a kick out of playing quarterback just because that's where I came from. And every time they say go in at quarterback, I just I have the most fun. Take it to the most advantage I can. You know, being a punt returner, a returner, is also a special feeling to me. Because I definitely don't want to be deactivated, if that's a word, from that role in this offense. I enjoy that. I feel like it helps us out a little bit, and it's getting, the role is expanding more and more each week, and I feel like, it's great for me and it's great for the team. We are taught as receivers to read the defenses just because you have to know when you're getting the ball and when you're not. So, it does, help me out a little bit coming from the quarterback position, but it also, like I said, we do have to learn that as a receiver.
So, of course, hearing there from Jalen Marshall, he's got experience at the quarterback position in high school. We've not seen him complete a pass yet this year, but he's coming in, in some of those interesting Wildcat formations. But really, really good to see the redshirt freshman taking responsibility for his unit. Obviously he doesn't want to lose any starting responsibilities in the kick return game. But yeah, so let's break down what happened in East Lansing. The Buckeyes had some special teams miscues. You have the punt coming to Jalen Marshall, and he doesn't wave the players off, as he acknowledged. Jeff Green, the ball touches Jeff Green, and it's a live ball, and Michigan State able to fall on it. Jeremy Langford immediately scores a 33-yard touchdown. So there, 14-point swing. Ohio State looks like they're rolling. Suddenly, 14-7 Michigan State lead. So Dontre Wilson, we talked about, okay, he's injured now, but when he was in the game, he had a fumble on an ensuing kickoff return with Michigan State leading. Cam Burrows bailed him out, fell on that fumble.
It's hard to win when you lose that battle.
Exactly, yeah, and we had said it last week that Ohio State, I thought they would lose the turnover battle, but the stats didn't reflect how sort of lopsided it was turnover-wise early on. That ensuing drive, Ohio State has a personal foul. JT Barrett sacked for 14 yards. 4th and 43, Aaron. Kaylee, what are these guys doing on that drive? You have a high snap. Cam Johnson able to come up with it. This is Urban's unit. He likes special teams. He says he loves coaching that unit, coverage, kicking, punting, whatever. And they just couldn't string together a solid sequence. So let's talk about the long snapper, though.
Well, something they do well, this long snapper, number 41, check it out. Redshirt junior Bryce Haynes snaps the ball, and he's able to hustle down the field and is the first one on the scene. Wow.
Yeah. No, exactly. They feel the punt. I mean, it's great to see these sort of unsung guys clearly playing physical football, even when they're not highlight reel guys. But we found you. We found you, Bryce Haynes. So, yeah, good on him. They were able to down the earlier one inside the 10.
In fact, Bryce Haynes actually was the one that downed that one inside the 10. He came up with it.
No, you're right. Yeah. I mean, we're dogging the special teams unit, but they work well inside that 10-yard line, pinning Michigan State. And Devin Smith did it earlier in the year against Navy. So it's good that they have that to try and win the field position battle, but ball control, that Dontre Wilson fumble. Anyway, so moving on, Devin Smith.
6 receptions, 129 yards, 1 touchdown on his 44-yard reception.
Monster game. He had a 43-yard reception in addition to that 44-yard score, as you said. Ezekiel Elliott had another strong game.
23 carries for 154 yards and 2 scores.
Yep. And, of course, we were talking about JT Barrett. Outstanding game in terms of turnover-free football. Clearly playing, more maturely.
But he still had a freshman moment. 40 seconds left to go, so the game clock is less than the play clock.
Yep.
Barrett, still in game mode, rolls out to the weak side and throws the ball away instead of turning up field. So the clock was stopped, and there was actually some confusion on the sideline with photographers because everybody was ready to rush the field, and it's like, oh no, they have to punt.
Yeah. It was good to see Barrett take the team on his back as he did during the overtime periods at Penn State. But Joey Bosa, this team figured out how to contain him. We talked about him maybe getting that tackle for loss streak as a Buckeye. Consecutive games, he didn't get it.
Nope, he was double teamed the entire night. That's how you do it. It takes 2 guys to hold that man back. Something he's going to have to get used to, and it's something I expect to see against Minnesota and in the future with Indiana, that team up north, maybe in the Big Ten championship. It's a sign that you're good at your job when it takes 2 guys to hold you back, but it also opens up the middle of the line. Suddenly Michael Bennett, who's no longer getting double teamed, is the one that's able to beat the center, get in there, put pressure on the quarterback. Interesting to see how his technique evolves.
Michael Bennett able to swat passes away. Bosa contributing to that defensive front by occupying linemen, so freeing up his teammates to make a play. Let's go with some score predictions. We were all off last week. We didn't know what we were talking about.
Took the under, though.
Yeah, they didn't score 50. I just barely squeaked that one in there. Minnesota, number 25 in the country.
Hosting, another ranked opponent.
Yeah, boosting the Buckeyes' resume if they're able to get the win. Do you guys see it happening?
Well, I do. Ohio State rebuilt a lot of momentum that they lost in Happy Valley, that they kind of regained with Illinois, that then they go on the road, and they're still on the road going up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where apparently they're paying $10 an hour to shovel snow off the field. So 54-35, Michigan State had over 500 yards on this defense. I expect the Gophers to be able to do the same, and they're not a bad team. They grind it out, as Coach Urban Meyer said all week.
Yeah, and Taylor Decker had addressed the cold. Center Jacoby Boren, he's played other positions, but they like playing in this weather. Minnesota's a good squad, though. You got Mitch Leidner, David Cobb, 1,200-yard rusher. They beat Iowa last week. They hung 51 on them. So this team has a pretty productive offense.
Well, what's your score? What are you going with? Stop stalling.
All right. 21st total defense in the country, but I think Ohio State 55-24.
Kaylee?
Okay. I have family from Minnesota. My dad's from there. It's very cold, and I think it does limit how much you can play. I've played there. It's hard. So, not football, but other sports. But but I think Ohio State's going to stay below 50. I think 49 again.
Nice.
And then I think Minnesota will get 28. I think they'll be able to score on the Buckeyes. I think just the cold and kind of like I think it's going to keep the legs down for the Buckeyes because it is
and
cold.
it's their house. They're used to it.
Yeah, I would wear a sleeve. I'd wear a lot of sleeves, actually.
There's no shame in Under Armour or whatever
Winter
you want to call
coat,
it.
leggings, everything.
Well, Well, there you have it. So the players are ready for their matchup. You know, they stressed preparation. They want to prepare like they did for Michigan State every week. So you guys have our score predictions. But yeah, they'll be squaring off against the Golden Gophers at TCF Bank Stadium on Saturday, noon Eastern, so 11 Central. This is weird, you know, going westbound into the Central Time Zone. But Aaron, let's shift gears. Women's volleyball, we have 3 matches that took place. How did they fare this weekend?
Well, before we get into Wednesday night's rematch against the Illini in Champaign, let's take a look at how the Buckeyes fared over the weekend with Big Ten newcomers Maryland and Rutgers. Ohio State faced the Terrapins last Friday, came out on top 3-1, turned right around Saturday against the Scarlet Knights, who they swept. But this brings us to another 5-set thriller against Illinois. Earlier in the season, they faced them at home at St. John Arena, but this time they were not able to get the late match rally to score the victory. The Illini, number 12, they come out with the victory against the number 17 Buckeyes as they head to Ann Arbor this weekend. However, senior setter Taylor Sherwin, she had 5 assists in Illinois. This puts her in the top 5 all-time in career assists.
So the Lady Buckeyes, you know, they fell in that second set against Maryland, then came right back with the other 2 sets. But then Rutgers, they just swept right away. Really great set there. So that was actually really good for the women's volleyball team this weekend.
And then, of course, Aaron, you know, we were able to tune in to BTN, witness that 5th set, another nail-biter against Illinois, who, interestingly enough, earlier in the week had dropped one to Northwestern. So, yeah, very strange to see, you know, that they're the team that had beaten Penn State. So, Big Ten up in the air. But solid information there. Aaron, I believe you might be out of here if you want to.
I am.
Sign up.
I will see everyone next week. But right now, we're going to move on over to men's soccer and how they did in their quarterfinal matchup against that team up north.
The Ohio State Buckeyes squared off against the Michigan Wolverines in the quarterfinal for the Big Ten tournament. And it was Danny Jensen who got the goal for the Buckeyes, assisted off of Max Moeller.
We keep hearing those names, Kaylee. You've mentioned Moeller as a guy that comes off the bench and is just versatile, able to play any position, unselfish player. And Jensen, you had mentioned earlier in our Chalk Talk season that he was the guy. He was the guy. Marcus McCrary was still sort of developing, and you were fine with that move. I remember you saying that, and you nailed it because these guys are coming up big. You know, you had Christian Soldat identified as well. But let's talk about Ivanov. The senior. He's continuing to have dominant performances. You know, pitched the shutout, so to speak, against Michigan. Indiana was able to get the better of Northwestern. So Ohio State's going to be facing the 6th-seeded Hoosiers on Friday in College Park. What are we looking forward to there?
Well, I think it's tough because Ohio State has already lost to Indiana, so it's that type of thing, you know, as the old saying goes, it's hard to beat the same team twice. They played Michigan and then they played them again 5 days later. So that was tough for the Buckeyes again, but taking on Indiana, I think the Buckeyes have grown. And, Coach John Blumey kind of talks about the depth of his roster.
Well, we're happy with the guys. You know, from player 1 through player 29, everybody has worked hard the entire year. Not all of them are getting a chance to play, and that's just the nature of the game. But the guys that we're using off the bench, Soldat and McCrary right now, are doing a really good job of giving us a lift when they come in. And so the ability to be able to change a game and make your team look a little bit different is very, very good for us. And you know, we've established a starting lineup now since I think the Wisconsin game that we've stuck with for 6 or 7 straight games now, and it's been very successful, and that's right where you want to be this time of year.
Ohio State Buckeyes scored their goal in the first half of the game with Danny Jensen, and then they had to completely hold Michigan. During the second half, Michigan played really high up. They continued to force pressure onto Ohio State, bringing their goalie all the way to midfield. So, here's what Alex Ivanov had to say about that game.
Yeah, I think it was crucial that we kept focus and maintained our lead, and I think everyone just did really well to stay on the same page. We were communicating a lot better the second half, and we used the win to our advantage as well, so that was good for us.
Last year's end of the season was this game because we only got to the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and so getting past there and at least moving up in the Big Ten is really feeling good. And then on top of that, we're also kind of a team to mess with, and I think that we can go in there and do some damage, but Maryland's a hard place to play at.
This team headed to College Park, as we mentioned. Maryland hosting conference champion, first seed. They will be taking on the Michigan State Spartans, the third seed. And then if the Buckeyes emerge victorious with their matchup with Indiana, then they would get the winner, of course, of that semifinal game. But also worth mentioning, 5 Buckeye players honored this week by the Big Ten. Zach Mason with the Sportsmanship Award, of course, the captain, consistent with Ellen Gruber getting one for the women. You had Liam Doyle, the defender, first team All Big Ten. Yanni Saris, the midfielder, the leader, we've talked about throughout the season, being named to the second team, and then both Marcus McCrary and Hunter Robertson being named to the All Big Ten freshman team. So congratulations belatedly to those guys, but we heard from Coach Bloom. He was honored as well, Kaylee.
Yeah, Coach Bloom actually got Coach of the Year award for the Big Ten, so big for Ohio State. 6 awards if you add the coach in there, 5 for players, 1 for coach, and really impressive for the Buckeyes, but they have a lot more games to go. So we'll hopefully have a lot more games to go. They're gonna go to Maryland. Maryland now hosting it. They're number 1, so they get to host the entire tournament, which is kind of tough. But we'll have to see how the Buckeyes fare. But definitely congratulations to all those guys on their Big Ten selections.
Definitely, and in the world of wrestling, things starting to ramp up a little bit. We had the Michigan State Open and the Mercyhurst Open that the men participated in. What do you have for us in that department?
Well, in both of those events, the Buckeyes were able to capture 4 titles, and then a couple guys coming in second, a couple, third. Preseason, obviously, really amping them up, and a lot of new faces. We have Kyle Snyder coming in as a captain this year. He's new to Ohio State, but they're coming in pretty strong. Obviously, everyone wants to know where are the Steber brothers. Hunter is actually, he's hurt right now, so he's not going to be wrestling. And Logan is set to wrestle in the Kent State match. And I actually covered the match, so I'll bring you more analysis and a couple more quotes from the players. We'll bring you that next week.
Yeah, great to see the Buckeyes ranked nationally. Of course, before the season started, we saw that they had an individual ranked in every weight class except for 197 pounds. So looking for big things there from the wrestling team. But let's transition to ice hockey. Big weekend. The men were hosting, as we previewed last week, the Omaha Mavericks. They came up short.
Yeah, Ohio State fell to the Mavericks in a series sweep. They weren't demolished, because you think Friday night 4-1, that's, all Omaha. Omaha did everything. But the Buckeyes they had the puck the majority of the time. And, Coach Rollick talks about how Ohio State had the puck majority of the time and how their special teams was what really kept them from scoring.
We did have some chances, but obviously they did the job on the special teams and we didn't, and that was the bottom line. Close isn't good enough, and that's the thing. You look at and you see we gave up 19 shots. We'd take that every game. But the bottom line is, the disappointing part is, I thought the game was there for us. We just had to capitalize. I thought we had some good jump early, and we just made too many mistakes. And a game like that, against a team like that, I don't care if their goalie plays well or whatnot, you got to find a way. And tonight, they got it done on the special teams.
So Coach Rollick talking about how the Buckeyes did struggle a little bit in the special teams area, but also, the Buckeyes, they kind of struggled in taking shots. They weren't taking shots consistently. They were playing kind of tidy, neat, just very, statistical hockey. They were, putting people at points, but they weren't shooting. And Nick Schilke, in his first game back, he wasn't taking as many shots either. That's not normal of Schilke. Last year, he took a lot of shots on goal. But also the Buckeyes, they kind of struggled with the physicality of the game. Omaha is a very physical team. But, Matt Johnson, he was at the press conference as well, and he talked about how that's how the Buckeyes play. So, here's Nick Schilke and Matt Johnson on their play and their team's play.
Not really. It's kind of our style and their style. So, we both know that it's going to be a grinding, hard-working game, so it's kind of something that we should be anticipating.
I don't know. I've felt good the past couple of weekends, but the reality is, being on the power play and everything, we got to perform. Things got to start clicking, and we just got to keep working to do that.
As you said, Kaylee, getting swept by the visiting Omaha Mavericks, but it's not like they weren't ready for that. Associate head coach Brett Larson last week had identified their physical play and the fact that the Buckeyes would need to tighten up on the power play, and they weren't able to get it done. Derek Angeli, thankfully for the Buckeyes, able to score off the power play. Tanner Fritz, the captain, We saw him score. So some bright spots despite the defeats. But men's basketball, they had an exhibition game against Walsh, defeated them handily, 77-37. The tune-up, I guess, that they needed. You had 4 players in double digits. Freshman D'Angelo Russell, senior Sam Thompson. He had become known for his proclivity for slam dunking the ball last year, so good to see him, contribute to the game also defensively because he had 3 blocks in that game. Sophomore Mark Loving had 12 points as well. But Walsh, it's under their belt. They got that easy sort of, we talk in football about these non-conference games that the SEC plays against cupcakes. No more excuses. The season starts tonight at UMass. They're facing UMass Lowell at 7 p.m. in the Schottenstein Center. So Buckeye fans, be sure to get out and support your men. Plenty of Buckeye action coming up this weekend.
And we forgot to mention the Ohio State Buckeyes men's ice hockey team will be taking on Bowling Green in a home series this weekend.
Yep.
So we are going to. So on Friday they will be in Bowling Green, but on Saturday the Buckeyes will be back at at the Schottenstein, and they'll be taking on Bowling Green, who is another very good team. So that's another Buckeye fans come out and watch it. It's an away game, and it's at 7 o'clock at night. So, Ohio State football will be done.
Yeah.
So come to Schottenstein.
It's a noon game. We use the phrase, no excuse or whatnot. Good to see that the Schottenstein, it's hitting peak season in terms of converting from basketball hard court to ice. I think that's going to wrap up all that we wanted to cover this week, Kaylee. Be sure to follow us at Chalk Talk OSU on Twitter. All sorts of statistical tidbits for you, more than the type of stuff that we can cover in this short segment, of course. But do you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, I'm Kaylee Renz for Andrew Todd Smith and Aaron Yarian. Thank you and good night.